Well, thank you, Sue and Colin, for taking a bit of time out of your day to sit down and chat with me. Well, firstly, you bringing the rods in, and Sue for letting me have your swim for the last 24 hours.
Not a problem.
It's strange to see me in the swim and not yourself,
Yeah.
but I thank you for that. I've had a few as well. Now, I've seen you guys a few times when I've come down here filming various different bits for Pallatrax, so I know a bit more about how you come into Pallatrax and your stories and catches. But for those that don't know you, firstly, introduce each of yourselves and how did you find out about Pallatrax?
Yeah, me first, ladies first. Okay, so I found Pallatrax. Basically, I was browsing on Facebook, as people do, and an advert came up for the stones. And when I was a kid, me and my brother used to go fishing, and we used to basically tie a stone on, making like a cage. And I just thought, I like that. Clicked straight through. Then saw the grips, thought they were a brilliant idea. Got some of both to try, loved them, joined the team. And from there, I was in a really bad place on a personal level. I'd just been medically retired from the police. I have mental health issues as a result of that, PTSD and stuff. And I kind of went out on a little bit of a limb and joined one of the fishings. Went along to my first fishing, absolutely loved it. Just the camaraderie and the friendships that were made straight away. The banter over the radio. We always have radios with us, and you get that little bit of a banter all the time. We had a barbecue on an evening, and just kind of fell in love with it. And from there, just have got more and more involved behind the scenes. Spent a while actually working on the events, and then eventually became an investor in the company. So, and do a lot of work behind the scenes now on the media and marketing. So that's me.
Hi, I'm Colin. Yeah, I was basically just looking for hooks. I'm fishing a very large reservoir down in Essex, and I've been really struggling in the past year. And I wanted an all-round hook I could use on my runswater, which is barbless, and on the reservoir, which is, you can use what you want basically. So I was searching through the internet for, for these hooks, barbless hooks on a curved shank pattern, and I just stumbled across the grips, and I thought that'd look all right. I thought, give them a go. So I ordered some hooks, and I was looking through the site and saw the stones. I thought, oh, brilliant. Not seen them before. Well, I've seen them years ago, but not really sort of like jumped on it really. Because I didn't know who produced them. So you got the grips hooks, you got the stones. So I started going down that route to start with, and because I seriously needed some help on the reservoir I was fishing. I was seriously struggling, and I just needed that, vamp to get me some confidence back, because I was doing week in, week out on there, and just blank after blank after blank, and I just wanted a new approach. And you know what, my family fish with me, my wife fishes, my son fishes, and it's I've always tried to teach them as well, fish welfare, that sort of thing, and everything was there. What I'd researched in the early days with Pallatrax, everything was there which I wanted. The whole care for the fish, and then I had at that point I hadn't even started looking at the bait side of things. That sort of like came a little bit later before I started using the bait. But yeah, that's how I discovered Pallatrax.
Following on from that, I know that you then started getting some results from your reservoir, didn't you?
Yeah, well, the first session back on this season, I was on the grips hooks. I was on the stones. I wasn't using the bait at this time, but I went down my first session, and my first fish was a 31 pound. And before that, I'd had nothing for about a year. Nothing off the reservoir. My catch rate on the runswater, it's always been quite high. It's a runswater, but even on the runswater, I was just wiping out. It's just the stones. It's just a different approach. The fish can't detect it. And I trebled my catch rate on the runswater. They were just jumping out at me. I couldn't not catch. And the grips hooks, well, I wasn't losing fish. They do stay in. They don't come out. So yeah.
Nice. Well, you kind of answered my next question, which is your favourite bits of terminal tackles. I'll jump back to you, Sue. Same sort of question? What's your preference and your favourite items?
I think my favourite has to be the stones, just for the everything that they encompass. They're not just a fishing weight, they're a tactic. You know, the fact that you can flavour them, and like I have all mine soaking in liquids, so they, you know, they're releasing attractants straight away. I always wrap them. That's how I fish. I fish the fully loaded stone system, so I love the grips. I never fish without them basically, because they hold. You don't see damage. They just and they stay sharp. You know, forever basically. Yeah, I've caught like, I mean, I had a session on this lake actually where I had 25 fish in 36 hours on 2 rigs, and those rigs are still in my bag because they're still good to go. So, and then I love the bait as well. For me, I've gone, you know, I started off on the grips and the stones, and then went to the gamma line and the fully loaded system, and now literally I was probably one of those people who's terrible for buying everything that you see, by my own admission, and now my tackle bag just literally has Pallatrax gear in it. I've found a system that works and I'm sticking to it basically.
Well, you touched upon bait there as well. So with the whole range, we've just done a whole piece separate to this on the bait ranges and how much nutritional value is in each of them. Which out of the range that's currently available is your go-tos?
Well, to start with, it was the jungle, because, you know, my second session down on the reservoir, I had 240s in the same session, and that was on the jungle. Now I kind of started using that. Then I bought some crave, and I started catching on crave on there as well. You know, totally different bait. It's just a HMV bait, and I think the multi-worm will sort of like creep in there at some point, because the multi-worm, you know, it doesn't attract the angler because it hasn't got any smell, but you can add stuff to it. You can boost it up. So the whole range really. You know, I've done well on the jungle. I've done well on the crave, and I'm sure at some point, you know, the multi-worm's going to grab me as well. So, you know, but I use all 3.
I think for me, if I could only pick one, it would be the multi-worm, because I've had such good results on it. I love the fact that I like to fish what we call a sick mix, and it's just absolutely chock-a-block full of naturals. So for me, it would be that, very closely followed, I hasten to add, by jungle. Particularly the white 10mm squad pop-ups, which I've just done. I've had some amazing results on those when they've been really over-flavoured. But yeah, I mean, to be fair, I've had fish on all the ranges. I love all of them, but if I could only have one, it would be multi-worm.
Both of you are clearly very invested in Pallatrax now, but it's clear to see that Pallatrax as a brand and the community is growing consistently. From an insider's point of view, can you see why that is?
I think it's a very personal approach. If you need any advice, just ring up. You speak to Simon or Tinny. You know, it's very sort of like, the advice there is there. You know, you go to some of the other tackle companies, you just go into a tackle shop and you just get to speak to the tackle shop owner. You know, if you want anything Pallatrax, you can ring up and it's all there. You know, I've recently started on the gamma line, and, you know, Simon just explained everything about it, and I thought, oh yeah, I'll give it a go, and it's absolutely brilliant. You know, I can't fault it. So I think it's more the personal side of the team. Everything's just there, and you know, the Facebook page, all the support, you can't go wrong.
Can you add to that, or has he pretty much hit the nail on the head?
He's pretty much covered it. I mean, to be fair, I think the thing that comes back time after time for me, it was the friendliness, and the team that really nailed it home. We have a private Facebook page, and you can ask, like, I learnt to fish with my brother. My brother's 5 years older than me, and then very inconsiderately, about 17 or 18 years ago, he moved to New Zealand, and he'd always been my sounding board. He was the person I went to for advice, and then all of a sudden he wasn't there. And I started, I never used to fish with boilies, didn't use boil baits at all, could never get my head around them. And it's only really in the last sort of 5 years that I've started using them. When I was in my early days in Team Pallatrax, I wanted to learn to air dry freezer baits, and the person I would have asked would have been asleep because it would have been the middle of the night for him. So I thought, right, I'll ask on the team, and the advice I got was just amazing. And I can only really echo what Colin said. I phoned up and in the early days had a conversation with Simon on the phone, and just the advice, the fact that he will take time out of his day, regardless of how busy he is, to help you and go through things and not push sales on you. He'll openly tell you not to buy a lot of stuff, and if you say this is what I want to do, he'll tell you. You know, he'll give you that advice, but not in that pushy way. So for me, that's the biggest thing, I think.
Lovely. Well, thank you both very much for your time. I hope you continue to catch lots more on your reservoir, and Sue, I'll let you have your swim back, because I understand you want to catch the big one that might be pushing over 30 now.
I certainly do. Thank you very much.
Thank you.